class, today we're going to talk about how to read the Scarlet Letter. So the first thing you're going to need is this handout that's behind me, and I'm going to be putting things up on the overhead so that you should follow along with the papers that you were given in class to help you with this short mini lesson. So the first thing you're going to notice is that we have to discuss independent clauses and dependent clauses. So first, can you please read through this paper on your own so you can feel free to pause the video to make sure you remember what an independent clause and a dependent clause is and how they function in sentences. Okay, once you've done that, please take a look at the copy of the Custom House that I printed out for you. This is the first page of text from the reading in the Scarlet Letter, and in order to better understand how to read this text, we need to focus in on those independent clauses and dependent clauses and how Nathaniel Hawthorne utilizes them in his writing. So I'm going to zoom in here a bit. Hopefully you can see that. So what I want you to focus on doing when you first approach his readings is to make sure that you're crossing off what information is not necessary and focusing in on what is necessary. So we discussed in class today, in your class, how to do this. So I'm going to just start by reading that first sentence. It says, "It is a little remarkable that, though disinclined to talk overmuch of myself and my affairs at the fireside, and to my personal friends, an autobiographical impulse should twice in my life have taken possession of me in addressing the public." So looking at what his main point is, what he really wants us to get at is the idea that it is remarkable that an autobiographical impulse should twice in my life have taken possession of me. The remainder of this sentence is not important. It just gives us more details that we don't necessarily need to know. So what you're doing is you're focusing in on making sure you find the subject and the predicate of the sentence, making sure to understand that not all of this sentence is necessarily important to understand what his main point is. So then he continues going on, and I'm going to kind of fast forward a bit in our lesson and show you what we did in class today, that we move forward a little bit to look at what's most important in the next sentence, which is, "The first time was 3 or 4 years since when I favored the reader, with a description of my way of life in the deep quietude of old manse. I again seize the public by the button and talk of my 3 years' experience in a custom house." So that's what the main point is that he's trying to get at in this couple of sentences. So I want you to try this strategy of crossing out what's not important, making sure that those extraneous details are not clouding your understanding of what you're reading. And I'll give you another example. If we flip ahead a bit into the next section, that starts here in my native town of Salem. He writes, "In my native town of Salem, at the head of what, half a century ago, in the days of old King Derby, was a bustling wharf." So in this case, a dependent clause that is not necessarily important, although it's a good detail to know. It's not an essential detail for us to know in order to read the text. But which is now burdened with decayed wooden warehouses, blah, blah, blah. And then he ends with, "At the head, I say, of this dilapidated wharf," next page, "stands a spacious edifice of brick." So because he's talking about the building, he's describing it in a little bit of detail here. And he tells us that from the loftiest point of the roof floats or droops the banner of the Republic, so the flag. So we talked about in class about how it's not always essential to get every little detail that he's trying to tell us, but to know the main point. So far, all we needed to know is that he's from Salem, and there is a building that stands near a wharf, and it has a flag that shows the banner of the Republic, and then over the entrance hovers an enormous specimen of the American eagle with outspread wings. Nevertheless, many people are seeking to shelter themselves under the wing of the federal eagle, but she has no great tenderness. In fact, she would fling off her nestlings who try to nuzzle into her bosom, which is what he says. So keep this in mind when you're reading the Scarlet Letter. Hopefully this is helpful, and please see me if you have questions and would like to review this a little bit more.